Have you ever wondered what the strongest entity to ever walk the lands between was? Well, it's easy to interpret the demigods as these incredible forces of nature. They are far from being the strongest. Even in the context of nuking a continent or arresting the stars, there are still entities way beyond that. Some of those at the top may even surprise you. In fact, the strongest entity we know of is not even a god himself. For this list, I am going to exclude the outer gods as their powers are too convoluted to make any reasonable rank. It is even stated that a dancing blind man was able to take down and seal away the outer god of rot. So let's look at who's the strongest from what we can confirm. But before we go any further, please consider dropping a like and subscribe. And this is a small channel, so any help you can offer would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for being awesome and enjoy the video. Ranking number 5 on our list is Malekith, the Shadow of Marika. There is little surprise here. All the demigods feared Malekith beyond anything else, and for a good reason. Wielding the power of death and death puts his power in an interesting prospect. Despite being sealed away, the power of death is surprisingly omnipresent in Elden Ring. Its influence, while contained, has spread beyond the wild and ever-growing scarlet rot. Reaching across the world, Malekith not only be able to wield this power, but contain the majority of it. While being in a sickened state, this is a feat we've seen beyond any of the demigods, including Melania herself. This is a beast, and we are beyond lucky we only had to fight him while he was weakened. Speaking of death, an honorable mention is going to be Godwyn, the Prince of Death. This is due to the death blight taking over the lands between as a whole, growing and affecting everything we've seen around it, and even infecting the Earth Tree at its very roots, even corrupting his beloved friend and the divine dragon, Placidusax, one of the mightiest of the ancient dragons. While we cannot put him beyond Malekith as we don't know his full power in his current state, it is easy to rank him among the top. Ranking at number 4, we are hit with the noble brute, Godfrey, also known as Horaloo, the man who conquered the lands between, tamed the crucible knives, and paved the path for the Golden Order, fighting mystical godlike beasts such as the Storm Lord and the fire giants. He was the strongest entity of his time and was only tossed away when all the conquering was done. And while Malekith was the shadow, Godfrey was Horaloo. And this lands him just higher on the list. While there is an argument that he may surpass the one ranking in third, I believe there's not enough evidence to confirm this. But Godfrey was not the first Elden Lord, as that lands us at our third spot, Placidusax. With a silhouette representing the two fingers in a weakened state, we find this monster in a world outside of time, awaiting for his god to return. Wielding the power of the Elden Ring in his prime, we are even given a glimpse of his true power in our challenge against him in Fair Missoula. And those feats alone bring his true power beyond those we have seen before outside of debatably Godfrey. But we don't know what his true power truly was, if he was ever defeated in combat, and what happened to his 3 other heads. The next 2, however, are much easier to rank as they are undisputably the top. An entity controlling the fundamental force of reality, everything from life and death, easily pushes it at a solid second. Made of the Conqueror Radagon, along with the godly entities of Marika and the Elden Beast, the state of the Elden Ring grants the powers to these entities to alter the world itself. The projections of power from this trio have the heaviest influence on the world we've seen so far. Any change of state to the Elden Ring changes the world. Anything from life, death, anything can be altered through the use of the Elden Ring. And while of course every entity in the game is far from their prime, this one was outright shattered and still gave one hell of a fight. It is hard to believe that any entity could challenge this force within its prime, but there was one. And this one ranks number 1 on our list, as it was an existential crisis for the Golden Order when it emerged. Gransax. You know that huge dragon you climb to the top of in Lindell? Yeah, that's him. And his actions were devastating. As a result of his attack, it prompted war against the ancient dragons. How can I say he's the most powerful entity if we got the reality warper over here? Easy. His attack on Lindell was an attack on the Golden Order and the city during its prime. And this right here is a force in which involves more than just the Earth Tree, but every single demigod, potentially even the Shadow Malekith. And yes, the city did fall. We are given confirmation from the bolt of Gransax. Eventually, he was struck down. And we know he probably did this alone because it was the only dragon corpse in the city. To understand the threat he put on the city, he prompted a war against the ancient dragons, creatures that are known by the Golden Order to be considered divine and sacred. We also know that no other entity and no other god, demigod, or army has ever conquered the city of Lindell outside of him, not even during the Shattering. Unfortunately, the only reference to his true power in-game is a spear derived from the original. Hopefully we'll get to see more of him in the upcoming DLC.